The cliff cost $10. $10. One rusty shovel. And a promise that no one would ever ask for it back. When 28-year-old Sarah Bennett handed over the money, the ranchers standing outside the land office burst into laughter. You bought a pile of rock. There isn't enough soil to grow weeds. Even the goats avoid that place. Sarah folded the deed carefully and smiled. I wasn't buying the dirt. The laughter only grew louder. Nobody understood what she meant. The abandoned cliff overlooked Dry Mesa, a rugged valley in western Colorado. For years, the property had passed from one owner to another. Every buyer eventually gave up. There was no flat land for farming, no timber, no obvious water. The limestone cliffs rose nearly 200 feet above the valley floor, their pale faces baking beneath the summer sun. To everyone else, it looked worthless. To Sarah, it looked familiar. As a child, she had wandered those cliffs with her grandfather. He had never searched for gold. He searched for water. He taught her to watch birds during dry months, to notice where moss survived, to listen for tiny echoes behind stone walls. Most people searched rivers. Her grandfather searched cliffs. The mountain hides its water, he always said. You simply have to learn its language. After he died, everyone dismissed his stories as old frontier legends. Sarah never did. Now, after years of working as a seamstress and saving every spare coin, she finally owned the cliff everyone else ignored. She moved into a tiny abandoned shepherd's hut near its base. The roof leaked. The windows rattled. But it was enough. Every morning before sunrise, Sarah climbed the cliffs carrying nothing more than a notebook, a walking stick, and her grandfather's old brass compass. She wasn't searching randomly. She was observing. Where did swallows disappear each evening? Which cracks stayed damp after weeks without rain? Which plants remained green while everything else turned brown? She filled pages with careful notes. The ranchers watched from below. One afternoon, Tom Wheeler rode past on horseback. You planning to farm rocks? Sarah laughed. Not exactly. What are you looking for? She looked toward the cliff. An answer. Tom shook his head. There's no answer up there. Sarah simply smiled. Sometimes the easiest way to keep a secret was letting people believe you were foolish. Weeks passed. Summer grew hotter. The valley baked beneath relentless sunshine. Streams shrank noticeably. Several shallow wells already needed deeper digging. Sarah continued climbing. One afternoon she discovered something strange. A narrow ledge covered with unusually bright green ferns. Everything around them looked dry, yet the ferns flourished. She knelt beside them. The stone beneath felt cool. Tiny droplets glistened inside a narrow crack. Barely visible. She touched the rock. Moisture. Her heartbeat quickened. She spent hours examining the cliff. The crack disappeared beneath fallen stones. Nothing obvious emerged. Still, she marked the location carefully. The following morning, she returned carrying her shovel. Instead of digging downward, she cleared loose rocks blocking the crevice. Hours passed. Nothing happened. Late in the afternoon, she noticed something else. The crack wasn't empty. A faint current of cool air flowed outward, cold enough to raise goosebumps despite the summer heat. She smiled. You're in there. Over the next several weeks, Sarah carefully widened the entrance. Not by blasting, not by forcing it. Simply removing loose rock the mountain had already broken. Gradually, a narrow passage appeared, just wide enough to squeeze through sideways. Lantern in hand, she entered. The passage curved gently into darkness. Cool air surrounded her. The temperature dropped immediately. 50 feet inside, the tunnel opened into a hidden limestone chamber. Sarah stood speechless. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling. Crystal clear pools covered the stone floor. Not large, but constant. She knelt and tasted it. Fresh, cold, pure, an underground spring. Exactly where her grandfather believed one existed. She laughed aloud. The sound echoed through the cavern. Every failure, every joke, every dollar, suddenly seemed worthwhile. She spent the next month improving the cave. Stone channels directed water into collecting basins. Wooden barrels stored overflow. A narrow pipe, carved from hollow logs, carried fresh water toward the shepherd's hut. She told nobody. Not yet. The valley still had water. No one would understand. Instead, she quietly planted a small vegetable garden beside the hut. Unlike neighboring gardens, hers remained green. Tom Wheeler noticed first. He leaned across the fence one evening. How are you watering those tomatoes? Sarah shrugged. Carefully. He laughed. You've got a secret. Maybe. Word spread quickly. People guessed she had hidden rain barrels. Others suspected an underground cistern. Nobody imagined the truth. Then August arrived. The hottest anyone could remember. Week after week passed without rain. Creeks shrank into muddy trickles. Shallow wells stopped producing entirely. Farmers began hauling water from neighboring counties. The town meeting became tense. We've never seen it this dry. We'll lose half the cattle. The orchards won't survive another month. Sarah listened quietly from the back. She wanted to speak. But without proof, people would dismiss her again. Instead, she returned home. The next morning, she noticed something impossible. Fresh deer tracks surrounded the hidden spring entrance. Then elk, birds, foxes. Every animal on the mountain somehow knew exactly where water still flowed. Nature had discovered the spring long before humans ever did. That afternoon, old geologist William Carter unexpectedly visited. Unlike everyone else, he wasn't laughing. He examined the limestone cliffs carefully, studied the green ferns, touched the cool rock, then looked thoughtfully toward Sarah. Tell me something. What? Have you found water? She hesitated. William smiled gently. I've spent 40 years studying mountains. He pointed toward the damp stone. That cliff is talking. Sarah remained silent. William nodded knowingly. I thought so. He looked across the valley where brown fields stretched toward the horizon, then back toward the cliff. If this drought lasts another month. His voice became unusually serious. That forgotten piece of rock may become the most valuable land in Colorado. Far above them, dark vultures circled lazily in the cloudless sky. Below, another well ran dry. And hidden deep inside the abandoned cliff, the underground spring continued flowing exactly as it had for centuries, waiting for the day the valley would finally need it. William Carter never exaggerated. When he said the cliff might become the valley's most valuable land, Sarah believed him. She simply hoped he was wrong. Another month passed. Not a single drop of rain fell. The grass turned gray. The river shrank into scattered pools. One by one, wells stopped producing water. Buckets came up dry. Windmills squeaked uselessly above empty shafts. Dry Mesa had entered the worst drought anyone could remember. Sarah climbed to the hidden spring every morning. The water still flowed. Not quickly, not powerfully, but steadily. The underground limestone chamber had stored water for centuries, releasing it drop by drop through the mountain. She thanked her grandfather every time she filled another barrel. Then came the first knock. Tom Wheeler stood outside her shepherd's hut. His face looked older than it had only weeks earlier. My well's gone. Sarah nodded quietly. I know. He hesitated. I noticed your garden. Every tomato vine remained green. Beans climbed healthy pools. Her fruit trees still carried leaves. You found water. I did. Tom looked toward the cliff. I laughed at you. You did. I'm sorry. Sarah smiled gently. Come with me. She led him through the narrow passage into the hidden cavern. Tom stopped breathing for a moment. Crystal clear water dripped steadily into the stone basin. It was here all along. Sarah nodded. The mountain kept it hidden. He filled 2 buckets. Before leaving, he asked quietly, May I tell my wife? Sarah looked at the spring, then at Tom. Tell only those who truly need it. By the following evening, 3 more families arrived. Sarah welcomed everyone. She established a simple rule. Everyone received water. Nobody wasted it. Everyone helped maintain the spring. People gladly agreed. Each family took only what they needed. Nobody argued. The mountain provided enough when people acted with care. As the drought worsened, more wildlife appeared near the cliff. Deer, foxes, wild turkeys, even a mountain lion visited the spring after dark. Sarah refused to chase them away. They were thirsty first, she told Tom. Together they built a second small stone basin farther downhill, so animals could drink without disturbing the main collection pool. Word slowly spread beyond the valley. Travelers arrived asking impossible questions. Is it true you have running water? Did you dig a new well? Did you strike an underground river? Sarah simply answered, I listened to the mountain. Most people didn't understand. William Carter did. One afternoon, he carefully studied the limestone walls inside the cavern. The spring isn't new. No, it has probably flowed for thousands of years. Sarah smiled. Grandfather always believed it. William nodded. Everyone else searched the valley floor. He tapped the cave wall. Water often hides higher than people think. Then disaster struck. The town reservoir finally ran dry. Children stood beside empty barrels. Livestock weakened. The town council called an emergency meeting. Voices filled the hall. We need wagons from the next county. It'll take days. We don't have days. Finally, Tom Wheeler stood. I know where there's water. Every head turned. An hour later, nearly the entire town followed Sarah toward the abandoned cliff. The same people who once laughed now climbed silently behind her. When she led them through the narrow opening into the hidden chamber, the only sound was dripping water. The merchant removed his hat. I've lived here 30 years. I know. I never imagined this existed. Sarah smiled. Neither did anyone else. The council asked immediately, can the spring supply the town? William examined the flow. If we're careful. Sarah stepped forward. No one owns the water. The mayor looked confused. But it's your land. She nodded. The cliff is mine. She rested one hand against the cool limestone. The spring belongs to everyone. Silence filled the cave. Then the mayor smiled. Your grandfather would be proud. For the next several weeks, the town worked together. Wooden pikes carried water downhill. Stone troughs were built for livestock. Families collected only limited amounts each day. No one complained. Everyone understood. The spring survived because it had never been abused. By working together, they ensured it would continue flowing. Late that autumn, dark clouds finally gathered above Dry Mesa. The first rain arrived just before sunset. People walked outside simply to feel water falling from the sky again. Children laughed. Farmers cried openly. The drought had ended. But nobody forgot who had carried them through it. Several months later, the townspeople gathered beneath the great limestone cliff. The mayor carried a polished cedar plaque. He handed it to Sarah. Carved into the wood were simple words. The $10 cliff that saved Dry Mesa. Sarah looked at the crowd. Months earlier, these same faces had laughed as she bought what they called worthless rock. Now they stood together because of it. Tom Wheeler stepped forward. We thought you wasted $10. Sarah laughed softly. I thought I was buying a chance. William Carter smiled. You weren't buying stone. He looked toward the hidden spring flowing quietly inside the mountain. You were buying the patience to look where no one else did. Years passed. The abandoned shepherd's hut became a permanent ranger station protecting the spring. The cliff itself became community land, though the deed remained in Sarah's name. School children visited every summer to learn how limestone stored groundwater and why protecting natural springs mattered. Whenever visitors asked Sarah how she knew water waited inside the abandoned cliff, she always gave the same answer. My grandfather taught me something simple. She looked toward the green ferns still growing beside the hidden crack. Nature whispers long before it shouts. She smiled. Everyone else was laughing too loudly to hear it. And from that day forward, nobody in Dry Mesa ever called the $10 cliff worthless again. Because when every well had failed, the land no one wanted became the place that gave an entire valley another chance to live.